Chapter 22, additional pronouns. We begin with what is called the, how do you pronounce that first pronoun? Interrogative pronoun. Interrogative pronoun. Interrogative pronouns ask questions such as who or what. And primarily, tis normally is rendered who. But if it's the neuter, it'll be rendered what? And it's found in the question. Therefore, it's called an interrogative pronoun. An interrogative pronoun. And please notice the declension on the bottom of 154. Please notice the declension on the bottom of 154. Can you tell me which declension the masculine and feminine follows? Is it the first, second, or third? Third declension. Have you seen the sasias, onsias anywhere before? See that there? Sasia et onsias. And the neuter, what does the neuter follow? Oh goodness. It also follows the third declension. Yeah, it also follows the third declension. Please notice, the masculine and the feminine are identical. You see that there? The masculine and the feminine are the same. And therefore, only the context can tell whether or not, it is a masculine pronoun or a feminine pronoun. But you will always have sufficient context to tell. Okay? You will always have sufficient context to tell. All right. Next pronoun is called the indefinite pronoun. And it is declined identically to the interrogative, except for the absence of the accent mark. Except for the absence of the accent mark. Otherwise, it would take a DNA sample to distinguish between the interrogative pronoun and the indefinite pronoun. The indefinite pronoun is anyone, someone. How's this one? Have you ever seen this one? A certain one, or a certain man. Have you ever heard, like in the English, a certain man came to Jesus? That's this pronoun. What kind of a pronoun is this called? The indefinite. In other words, if you don't know who he is, you use what pronoun? In other words, if you're not certain who he is, you translated a... Isn't this crazy? This can either be M/what? F, which means this can either be masculine or... So I could translate it a certain man, but I could also translate it a certain woman. Good. A certain woman. Now, bottom of the page, I want to introduce you to the most important pronoun in this chapter. And it's the one that we need to spend the most time on. It's called the relative pronoun. Please turn the page. At the top of the page, I give you 3 English examples. Do you see those 3 sentences? The Spirit who gives life has been given. In that sentence, which is the relative pronoun? Who. Okay? What is the antecedent of the relative pronoun who? Spirit. Good. Look at sentence number 2. The words that I speak are life. What is the relative pronoun there?
Yes.
Good, that. What is its antecedent? Words. And then finally, the one whom the Father sent is here. Which word is the relative pronoun? Whom. And what is its antecedent? The one. Okay. You see how the relative pronoun works? The relative pronoun is who, remember, which, or that. And it will have an antecedent. An antecedent with which it must agree in gender and in number, but not necessarily in case, as we will see in just a minute. But first I want to call your attention to the paradigm on 156. Please look at the forms of the relative pronoun. Can you tell me which declension the masculine follows? Second declension. Can you tell me which declension the feminine follows? First declension. Can you tell me which declension the neuter follows? Second declension, right? Nothing new here to learn. Those pronouns are self-evident. Now, toward the bottom of the page, here's the rule. The relative pronoun agrees with its antecedent in gender and number, but the case is determined by its function in its clause. I give you two examples. Cover the English. Please, cover up the English of those two examples, or this won't work. So take out a piece of scratch paper or put your hand over the English, if you will. And let's look at that first sentence. Ha anthropos, has eide ton kurion, estin apostolos. Now, without looking at the English, do this for me, please. Translate the first two words and the last two words of that sentence. The man is an apostle. You see that there? Ha anthropos estin apostolos. The man is an apostle. Good. Now, the word in bold is a relative pronoun. Okay? We would translate it how? Who. Good. Who. What is the antecedent of has in Greek? Anthropos. Okay? Now, please find has on the little chart there. Please find has on that little chart. You see it there? Can you please tell me what gender it is? Can you please tell me what number it is? Can you please tell me what case it is? Nominative. Now, does it agree with its antecedent in gender?
Yes.
In number?
Yes.
And in case?
Yes.
Yes, it does. So let's translate the first sentence without looking at the English. Okay, let's see if we can do it. The man who saw the Lord is an apostle. You got it there? Now, look at the next sentence, but please don't look at the English. Look at the next sentence. Please translate the first two words and the last two words. The man is an apostle. The word in bold is a relative pronoun. Okay? Please find it on your little chart there. Find han on your little chart. All right, it's masculine. What number is it? Singular. Now watch this. What is its case? Accusative. Now can anybody tell me why? Raise your hand if you can tell me why han is in the accusative case. Think about it. Why is han in the accusative case? Anybody? Nobody? Why would han have to be in the accusative case? Yes, sir.
In second definition, onuma is technical accusative.
Because it's in the second declension?
Yeah.
No. Please look at its clause. Temeskin.
Because idome, the subject is we, so
Okay.
it has to be
Good.
accusative.
Look at Edaman, everybody. You see? Han is the object of Edaman, is it not? What is the case of the object in Greek class? Accusative, and that's why Han has to be in the accusative. Go back to sentence number 1. See has? Why is has in the nominative case? Because it is not the object of its verb, but the subject of its verb, the subject of Ada. You see the difference? So let me repeat the rule. These are two good illustrations of that. The rule is simply this. A relative pronoun agrees with its antecedent always in what? In gender. Always in what? number. But listen, its case is determined by what? By its function in its own clause. And a clause that is introduced by a relative pronoun is called a what kind of a clause? A relative clause. Go back to the top of the page. You see those three examples? The relative clauses are given in italics. See the relative clauses? Who gives life? That I speak. Whom the Father sent. Those are called relative clauses. So, in the first Greek sentence, hos is in the nominative because it is the subject of the verb in its own clause. Let me repeat that. Look at number one. Hos is in the nominative. Watch this. Not because anthropos is in the nominative. Not because its antecedent is in the nominative. The only reason hos is in the nominative is because it is the what? It is the subject of the verb within its own clause. And a clause that is introduced by a relative pronoun class is called what kind of a clause? It's called a relative clause. Look at sentence number 2 in the Greek. Han is in the accusative. Why? As Temeskin pointed out, because it is the object of the verb in its clause. See that there? So let me repeat the rule. A relative pronoun agrees with its antecedent in gender and in number, but not necessarily in case. In sentence number 1, does it agree in case?
Yes.
In sentence number 2, does it agree in case? No. No, 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 no. Because case is a function of its context. That's what we're talking about. No problem. No problem whatsoever. The next pronoun is called an indefinite relative. An indefinite relative, notice this, hos, tis, is comprised of hos and tis. This is called a what pronoun? A relative pronoun. Tis is called the indefinite pronoun, so this is called the relative indefinite pronoun. No, it probably should be, but we call it the indefinite relative pronoun. This pronoun is quite rare in the New Testament, so you're not going to expect it. Don't expect it too much. Either expect the relative or the indefinite, but combining the two is quite kind of rare in the New Testament. But we need to at least introduce you to it. Next page, reciprocal pronouns. Reciprocal pronouns. There's 3 of them. Alelon in the genitive, of one another. Alelois in the dative plural, to one another. And alelus in the accusative case, one another, such as the command to love one another. To love one another. The next pronoun is called a reflexive pronoun. A reflexive pronoun. And they are healtu, healto, healton, emaltu, emalto, emalton, sealtu, sealto, sealton, and in the plural, healton, healtois, healtus. And you'll see these in the exercises for today. Okay, so that's called the reflexive pronoun. Now this last one merits just a little bit of explanation. This last one here. It's called the possessive pronoun, but sometimes it's called the possessive adjective. And look at the example I give you here. Ha emas logos. Ha emas logos. Emas is functioning just like an adjective. Translate ha agathos logos for me, please. The good word. Now this is literally, watch this. This is going to be an over translation. The my word. See it there? That's not how you'll translate it. How will you translate it? My word. But the Greek says the my word. And of course we can postposition it. Ha logos, ha Emas. Let's over-translate. The word, the my. Now you see how emphatic it is? This is super emphatic. And I don't know, the best we can do in English is my word. But this is really, really, really emphasized. As contrasted with the normal way in Greek, I would say my word, which would be halagos mu. Over-translate, class. The word of me. Translate. My word. Can you see the difference? This is much more emphatic when I use the possessive adjective, the my word, than the word of me. Now this is the normal way of showing possession in Greek, so when I depart from it and I use the possessive adjective, whether it comes before or after the noun, this is extremely emphatic. Extremely emphatic. For example, go to the exercises in number 8, please. Number 8 in the exercise. This is from John 5:30. John 5:30. Who is speaking here? Can you guess? John 5? No? This is Jesus. Okay, Jesus is speaking. Let's over-translate number 8. Okay, are you ready? Translate the kai. Translate the hey. Translate the krisis. Judgment. Translate the hey. Love. Translate the ma. Ma. Translate the kaya. Just. Translate estin. Is. Now how is that? How would you think that's normally translated in your New Testament? My judgment is just. Right? Jesus is saying, my judgment is just. Now, normally he would have said this. Hey, krisis, who, right? This is the normal way of saying my judgment. Over-translate. The judgment of me. Translate. My judgment. Now notice in number 8 what Jesus says. He says, the judgment, the my. Very emphatic. So how could we paraphrase that to bring out the force? Not my judgment is just. How could we paraphrase it? The judgment mine. That wouldn't work in English. What's that? My judgment is? My judgment. My own judgment. That's good. My own judgment is just. How about this? It is my judgment that is just. Can you hear that? It is my judgment that is just. As if to imply other people's judgment is not just, right? It is my, that's exactly what Jesus is saying here. It is my judgment that is just. Now your Bible will say what? My judgment is just, right? But Jesus says what? My judgment. Mine. My judgment. By the way, look at my, the word my, and may. Do you see it there? What gender is a may? Can you tell what gender a may is? Feminine. And who's the speaker? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's something going on here. A may. Fossil, I think we need to take care of this situation. A may is feminine, but the speaker is masculine. Can anybody explain to me what's going on here? Yes, let that.
Because judgment is female.
Exactly, because judgment is what gender? And because this pronoun is called an adjective must agree with the noun that it modifies in what 3 things? Gender, number, and case. So even though the speaker is a male, right? He uses a feminine pronoun. Why? Because the pronoun functioning as an adjective must what? Must agree with its noun in what 3 things? It must agree with. Remember, adjectives always agree with their noun, right? In 3 things. Gender, number, and case. Okay. So this chapter is sort of a leftovers chapter. We just have to cover all the other important pronouns, and this is it. This is all the pronouns. By the way, all the grammar you need to translate your Greek New Testament is in this book. This book is all you need to be able to read this book. Got it? You don't need a second-year grammar. You don't need a third-year grammar. All of the grammar that you need to read this book is in this book. And so we have now covered all of the pronouns that you need to learn in order to read your Greek New Testament. Okay? Now, we just have a couple of other moods we need to talk about, like the subjunctive mood and the optative mood and the imperative mood. But other than that, you're almost there. And in just 2 lessons, we'll start translating the book of 1 John. Okay? The book of 1 John, which is a wonderful book, as you know. The grammar is simple, but the concepts are profound. And so we want to talk about that when we get there. Vocabulary to this lesson, please. Vocabulary, page 158. Here we go. Alelo is one another. He autou, notice the rough breathing, is himself or herself. Em autou, myself. Emas, eme, aman. What is going on there? Emas is what gender? Masculine. Eme would be feminine, and eman would be neuter. Same thing for a meteros, a metera, and a meteron. Next page, idios, idia, and idion. Okay, he came unto his own, and his own received him not. Remember that? He came unto his own, and his own did not receive him. The first his own in Greek is neuter plural. The second his own is masculine plural. He came unto his idia, and his idioi did not receive him. Did you know that? It's a wonderful play on words. So how would you bring that out in a translation or in a paraphrase? He came unto his own, his idia, and his own, his idioi, did not receive him. How would you bring that out? Why the neuter plural? Why the masculine plural? Jesus, all things were made by him, and apart from him was not anything made that was made. Remember? Earlier in that same chapter. So he came unto his own, this is neuter plural, his own what? His own creation. Right? The things that he made. He came to the very things that he made. But it wasn't the things that didn't accept him, it was the hoidio is masculine, his own people. His own people did not receive him. But to as many as received him, to them gave he exousia on tekna theou genestai. To what? To become children of God. To those who believe on his name. Who were born not of the will of the flesh, or the will of man, nor of bloods, it's plural in Greek, but of the will of God. All right. So that's idios. Pas, he, ha is your relative pronoun. Pastis, he, tis, hati is your indefinite relative pronoun. Then we have se autou, sas, se, san. And then notice the only difference between tis and ti is the presence or absence of what? A accent. Accent mark. The one with an accent mark is called the, what pronoun? Interrogative. The one without the accent is called the indefinite. Indefinite. And finally we have humeteros, humetera, and humeteron. Okay. Let's work on some of these. Let's see. Let's do number 1, number 2, number 4. Alrighty, we are on page 159, looking at number 1. Su. Tis a. Did you hear the question mark? A. Su tis a. Please look at the third word, the a, and translate a all by itself. No. It's still a. are you? Now pick up the first word and the last word. Who are you? Oh, excuse me. Are you? And now translate. No. The first and the last word. I've got you confused now. First and last word. The last word is are you? Now pick up the first word. You. Are you? Or just are you? Right? You see how emphatic the you part is now. Now let's pick up the tis. And now we make it a question. Who are you? The Greek literally says what? You. Who are you? You. By the way, I didn't hear you when we went to Lava. I didn't hear you. I did not even hear it one time. I heard, you know what I hear now? I hear Abba. Abba. That's what they were saying. Hey, Abba. Abba. These are complete strangers, you know. Abba. Instead of going you. I heard you only one time, and it was from an adult. And I was in the car, and he goes, you. That's Sue. See how emphatic? Sue. Who are you? Let's parse the verb a. Are you ready? Let's do it. What tense is a? It is present. Now watch this. What voice is it? Blank. What mood is it? Indicative. What person and number is it? It is second singular. And what is the source? Good. A, me. A, me. Any questions on that one? Number 2, translate the Kai. Please don't leave Kai untranslated. Okay? Kai needs to be translated. And translate Estin haute. This is He Angelia. The message. Now, this next word. Watch this. This next word is not aim, it is what? Hey, can you see the difference? Translate aim. He was. Translate hey. That or which. Either one would work. And this is the message which or that. Ake ka amen. We have heard to from him. And this is the message that we have heard from him. Now watch this. Be very careful when you compare your English. The NIV will do something like this. It won't do the Kai, and it won't do the aim. So what will their translation be? This is the message we have heard from him, right? Be careful now. For our purposes, I want you to translate the Greek. Okay? Even though you don't need to do it necessarily in English. Don't say, this is the message we have heard from him. That's acceptable, but I want you to translate all the Greek. So, now how are we going to do number 2? And this is the message which or that we have heard from him. Okay? Please look at Ake ka amen, and let's parse Ake ka amen. What is the tense? Perfect. The voice and the mood. Active, indicative. The person and the number. First, plural from, ku, o. Very good. Excellent. Any questions on number 2? Well, let's try number 4. Koinonian, ekamen, met alelo. Translate. We have fellowship with one another. We have fellowship with one another. Parse for me the verb, please. Present, active, indicative, first, plural from echo. Good, from echo. Any questions on number 4? Yes, Lidette too.
Can we put indefinite article A before fellowship?
We have a fellowship. I don't know English well enough to answer your question. My guess is no. That would be my guess. My guess is we would rather say what? We have fellowship. I think that would be the better way. But that's just my guess. All right. All right. Well, we've got one more, and I want you to notice in number 7 that it's the question, isn't it? But here's what I want to do. Before doing it as a question, I want to do it as a statement, okay? And there's madness to my method. There's something I want to show you. But first of all, let's do it as a statement rather than a question, okay? So let's see if we can do it as a statement. Who can do it as a statement for me? Yes, Lizette.
We prophesied in your name.
Well, you got that first word, though. Now we need to add that first word. We did not prophesy in your name, okay? Does everybody kind of see that? If that was a statement, that's how we would have to translate it. We did not prophesy in your name. Now let's make it a question. Did we not prophesy in your name? Question mark, right? No. There's more to the Greek than that. Let me tell you something. This is so cool. In Greek, when I ask a question, I can imply the answer. It all depends on which negative. If in asking a question I use oo, the expected answer is yes. If I use may, the expected answer is no. Okay, that was kind of the fine print stuff that you've already seen, but you may have forgotten. If oo is used in a question, the expected answer is affirmative. If may is used, the expected answer is negative. Now, with that in mind, would anybody like to retranslate 7 to try to bring this out, try to bring this little phenomenon out? Anybody want to take a stab? Think about it now. Did we not prophesy in your name? No. That's not what it's saying. Yes.
Have we not prophesied in your name?
No. That will not work. Yes, Carmen?
Didn't we prophesy in your name?
No, that doesn't help us. That doesn't help us. It expects the answer yes. There's a way to do this in English. Think about it. Can anybody get it? Yes.
We prophesied in your name, didn't we?
That's it. Did everybody hear that? That's exactly what the Greek is saying. We prophesied in your name, didn't we? And what's the expected answer? Yes. Right? Yeah, so that's the way I want you to translate it. We prophesied in your name, didn't we? In other words, is it really a question or is it a statement? It's more of a what? A statement, right? It's not, Jesus, I want you to answer something. I'm not really sure. Did we prophesy in your name or not? And he's going to say, no. It's we prophesied in your name. Jesus, remember that? Didn't we? And they expect Jesus to say what? Yes. Now, if there was a may there, the expected answer would be no. But with the oo there, the expected answer is yes. Okay? So these people prophesied, right? And they healed, and they preached, and they taught, and they did all these wonderful things. And yet Jesus says to them, I never knew you. Had a friend, went to his office one day, he had a picture of him and George Bush. I said, you had your picture taken with George Bush? He said, yes, I did. I said, I'm impressed. He said, yes, you ought to be. I said, you know President George Bush? He says, yes, I do. He says, I'm really, really surprised. He says, you ought to be. I said, you know George Bush? He says, yes, I do. You had your photo taken with the president? Yes, I did. Then I said to him, I've got one more question for you. Does George Bush know you? Have you ever been to a photo op? Do you know what a photo op is? You know, you pay like $100 or $500 or $1,000 to go to a dinner with the president, right? And what happens is you shake his hand, right? Click the picture. The next guy click the picture. Next guy click the picture. Next guy click the picture. Costs you $1,000. Now, these people said, we prophesied in your name, right? Right? We healed in your name. We know you. We know you. And then Jesus is going to look at them, and he's going to look at the books, and he's going to look at them, he's going to look at the books, he's going to look at them, and look at the books, and says, there's only one problem. I don't know you. I never knew you. That's the only question that matters, right? Not that you know him. Does he know you? And you see, this is not, we did this, it is no, we did it. We prophesied in your name, right? And the answer is, of course you did. As if that's going to merit them some brownie points with Jesus, and it doesn't. It doesn't. All right? 1 Thessalonians 5 says what? Stop quenching the Spirit. Stop despising prophecies. Right? Stop despising prophetic utterances. I don't know what your position on prophecy today is. Is prophecy still a gift? Do people prophesy today and so on? Paul says to the Thessalonians, stop despising people who bring prophetic utterances. That's what he says. First, the church in Corinth was the charismatic church. The church at Thessalonica was the non-charismatic church. And he says to the non-charismatic church, stop putting out the fire of the Holy Spirit. Stop despising prophetic utterances. And then in the very next breath he says what? But test all things. Hold fast to that which is good, and abstain from even the appearance of evil. Don't be gullible. Just because somebody prophesies, just because somebody heals, doesn't make them a follower of Jesus. So just because someone speaks in tongues doesn't make it a genuine gift. Someone speaks in tongues, here are 4 possibilities. A genuine gift of the Spirit exercised spiritually. A genuine gift of the Spirit exercised carnally. That was the problem in Corinth, right? Self-induced tongues and demonically inspired tongues. I think those are the 4 possibilities. Prophecy, the same thing. Don't be gullible. Don't be stupid. Don't be silly. Test it. Test it. It's like one day the story is Billy Graham had just preached a crusade, and a woman came up to him afterwards and said, Dr. Graham, the Lord just told me to ask you for $10,000. You know what he said? Here's what he said. No, he really didn't say this, but he could have said, well, I don't believe in the sign gifts. I believe they ceased in the apostolic age with the closing of the New Testament canon. And therefore, because of my cessationism, no, he didn't say any of that. You know what he said? She said, the Lord just told me to ask you for $10,000. Here's what he said. I thought he was so wise. Here's what he said. He said, that's great. That's great. And when the Lord tells me to give it to you, I will. Right? Just exercise some discernment. I got a phone call the other night. A complete stranger calls me and says, his friends just won the lottery to go to the state. Vocab. And translate the following sentence. Remember, I take my quiz sentences directly from here. I can't change these, can I? I can't tweak these. I can't modify them. I have to take them directly from here. So if you can translate these correctly, you will do just fine on the quiz. All right. We have 2 things coming back to you today. We have the quiz from yesterday, and we also have the exam from today. Okay, and I'll hang around. If you have any questions, feel free to come up and ask. Yes? College. Okay, Vaso, if you would mind helping me. Let's do the quiz first, shall we?